Hi everyone, my name is Jessica Leone Aldridge and I work for CAPS, so that's Counseling and Psychological Services. Thanks for joining me today for a LeadCon session. My presentation's called Influence with Intention, Leadership Without Burnout. Now, my presentation typically it's designed for a lot of group interaction. So I'm going to do my best to adapt it for you all who are at home today. What we're going to consider is instead of us doing a workshop with people in the present, in a big space together, I encourage you to just take some notes and consider how you can use some of this as as like a journaling prompt, some things for you all to consider in self-reflection, maybe even conversation topics that you want to bring into your meeting as student leaders, your meetings with your organization or with your peers. And so really the point of this workshop is to help you all to self-reflect and consider some of this information for your success as a student leader. All right, without further ado, I'm going to pan over to my PowerPoint and we'll get started. As I mentioned, my presentation is called Influence with Intention, Leadership Without Burnout. And this is a self-created presentation. A little bit about me is I graduated from Cal State Fullerton years and years ago. And when I was a student here, I was also a student leader. And so I'm always really honored to be asked to speak with our student leaders because it's just a relatable topic. During my time as a student leader, I did hit a few periods of burnout. And so this is me kind of giving back and saying, I created this presentation in self-reflection, thinking that if I knew some of these things, maybe I would have been better off. I also am a therapist here on campus, so I work individually with students, and sometimes my clients are student leaders. And so this is also coming from those contexts too of hearing about some student leaders and kind of what do you wish you would have known? All right, so today we're going to talk about burnout, then stress management and leadership, and lastly, we're going to finish the presentation just talking about CAP services, what's available to you all as students here on campus. So we're going to watch a video, and I do have to warn you, the video is kind of long. It's a 5-minute video, but it covers so much. If you like the video, take note of it, so that way you can share this video with your organization or take pieces of it and reflect upon it. When I'm meeting with a group, I ask that folks hold these self-reflection questions. Um, while they're watching the video. So, in what ways can burnout prevent a person from accomplishing their desired leadership goals? The video is about burnout, and we're going to think a little bit past that and thinking about how does it impact leaders, though? How have you noticed stress impacting your well-being? And what is the fact that you learned from this video that you plan to share with others? So I'll give you all a second to take note of that, and then we'll move right along to our video.
Hey, Psych2Goers. Would you consider yourself a workaholic? Do you have a tendency to push yourself to your limits? Have you been feeling lately like it's hard to keep up with yourself? For high achievers, burnout is one of the speed bumps in life that you should be wary of. Burnout is a term coined by psychologist Herbert Freudenberger in the 1970s and is described as a severe stress condition that leads to severe physical, mental, and emotional exhaustion. To help better understand this condition, in this video, we'll be looking at 7 signs you're dealing with burnout. Number 1, you are emotionally exhausted. Have you ever felt that you're at your limit? That it's extremely hard to keep on working, even in small amounts? According to Scott and Gans in 2020, burnout can lead to lethargic feelings, an inability to cope with stress, and an overall feeling that you are emotionally drained. When you're emotionally exhausted, you may feel powerless and have no control over what happens in your life. You may feel that you're stuck in a situation and have little energy to keep going or get out of it. Number 2, you're isolated from others. Have you noticed that you're turning down invitations to events that you'd normally be excited about? Or perhaps you're not returning messages as quickly as you normally would. This can be a sign of burnout. Dr. Carter in 2013 states that in the early stages of burnout, you might isolate yourself more and find social interactions are more difficult. You might find that people get on your nerves more than usual, and that you find ways to avoid interacting with others at work or school. Number 3, you have escape fantasies. When you're at work or school, do you find yourself wishing that you were somewhere else, preferably away from your job or schoolwork? Dealing with high amounts of stress for an extended period of time can make it hard to concentrate on the task at hand. It can be easier and more fun to think about going on vacation or even going back to bed. At worst, some people dealing with burnout may desire drugs or alcohol to escape their negative feelings, which can lead to abuse issues. In any case, doing anything else can seem more exciting than working. Number 4, your performance is suffering. Dealing with burnout can also affect the quality of your work. Do you find that you're letting mistakes slip through the cracks more so than normal? Is it hard to care if something is perfect or not? Is it hard just to start something, let alone finish it? Having stressors in your life, like taking care of an ill family member or working long hours, can make it hard to put a lot of effort into your work. When you have little time for self-care or to focus on other things, it can make it harder over time to keep up with your usual performance. Similar to how athletes need to rest after practice, you need to rest as well to recuperate. Number 5, you don't feel well. Have you ever wondered why you still feel tired despite sleeping well or having a day off? Do you experience stomach problems or other types of unexplained pain? Have you noticed that you seem to get sick more often than before? Dealing with high amounts of stress can weaken your immune system, so it's easier to get sick. Additionally, stress can affect other aspects of your physical health, causing you to feel pain and tiredness that can't be explained by anything else. Fraga and Legg in 2019 stated that burnout can deplete your energy and in turn weaken your immune system, making you more susceptible to infection. Apart from that, burnout can increase feelings of depression and anxiety, along with other mental health issues. As burnout progresses, small stressors may become much bigger problems and affect your ability to perform. Number 6, you're more pessimistic. Burnout may lead to a pessimistic attitude in which you may adopt a glass half empty mindset. Are you finding yourself feeling more down on the world? Do you find it harder and harder to stay positive? One may be so engrossed with negative thinking that at its later stages, the pessimism may advance beyond how you feel about yourself, causing you to mistrust people that are close to you. You may feel that you can't count on anyone, even yourself. And number 7, you're more irritable. Are you finding yourself more on edge with other people? Do others seem to constantly get on your nerves? Dr. Carter in 2013 states that irritability often originates from feeling worthless, unproductive, and a growing perception that you're not able to do things as productively or effectively as you once did. At first, your personal and professional relationships may be affected. However, in its later stages, it can severely interfere with people in your life. Stress may be inevitable, but burnout is preventable. Making lifestyle choices to help manage stress, like exercising, eating a balanced diet, working on your self-care routine, etc., can go a long way in balancing your lifestyle. If you find that you are struggling beyond this, it's important to check in with a mental health professional or a healthcare provider for advice. Let us know your thoughts on the topic. What are some other signs of burnout that you've noticed? How do you combat these feelings? Let us know down below. Remember to subscribe to Psych2Go and to turn on the notifications to keep updated with our uploads. All of our references used in this video can be found in the description below. And as always, take care.
Alrighty, so here we are back at those self-reflection questions. I just want to kind of comment on my experience in presenting this with a live audience. And so what I've noticed is that sometimes people comment wow, that's me, and that's me all the time. Not only am I burnt out, but I'm chronically burnt out, and I don't really know what my life would look like when I'm not experiencing this. And that's sad. That's hard to hear. And so if that's you, I want you to just take a deep breath because you were probably very distracted by what you're watching in the video. So just go ahead and take a deep breath in and let that air all the way out. I'd like for you to during the presentation, we're going to talk about stress management techniques and things that you can do. You might notice if you are somebody who's chronically burnt out, you might notice that you're like, I've already done that, or that's not going to work. If you're having those thoughts come up, I encourage you to stick with the presentation. But at the very end, I'm going to be talking about some resources for you at CAPS. And I'd like for you to really tune into those resources because you may need some one-on-one help as far as getting you out of feeling like you're in that burnout hole. For others of you watching this presentation, you're like, wow, I haven't experienced that. That's, not something that I'm familiar with. Nevertheless, we talk about it because many US studies indicate that upwards of 60% of working adults experience burnout. As a student leader, you're now testing your skill set that you'll be using for your future career. So my hope is that the more we talk about these warning signs and we combine it with some strategies to mitigate these risks, you'll experience more health and satisfaction as you lead here at Cal State Fullerton, but also in your careers beyond. Now we're going to focus on these self-reflection questions. Right now is a good time to pause the video if you need some time to sit down and think about this. But if not, I'm more than happy to contribute some ideas that I've heard from audience members in the past. And so for our first question, folks have kind of talked about how when they feel burnt out, when they feel overly stressed, they feel exhausted, they really feel like they're not themselves. They're certainly not feeling like they're their best selves. And so noticing how burnout can prevent them from accomplishing their goals. Maybe their goals are focusing on their positive reputation. Somebody who's irritable and having tendencies of wanting to isolate, maybe struggling with patience and negativity, that may impact somebody's ability to have a positive reputation as a leader. And so that's absolutely how burnout can impact a person's ability to accomplish leadership goals. Additionally, that lack of patience combined with a lack of focus, drive, motivation can make it really difficult as well for leaders to accomplish maybe their organizational goals. Like, we need to get this done by a certain date, or I have an idea and I want to make this idea happen. Right? We can think all day long about ideas, but it really takes some motivation and effort and consistency and follow through in order to turn an idea into an actionable item that we follow through on. And so those are some things that folks have talked about. Additionally, how have you noticed stress impacting your well-being? Folks comment on sleeping and eating. Maybe when they're really busy, they're skipping meals, or maybe they're also like kind of following that up by like eating a lot of food that maybe isn't particularly nutritious for them. Noticing that their brain has a hard time shutting off when they are trying to fall asleep, or they're waking up just not feeling rested. These are absolutely cues that your stress is impacting your well-being. And so if this is you, if I'm talking to you and you're like, oh, hey, that happens to me, I have some resources for you at the very end of the presentation that I'd love to share with you, specifically about our wellness workshops. And then I encourage you all to take information that you have learned today, or information that you've kind of self-reflected on. You don't have to have all the answers, maybe even considering like what questions should I be asking my peers as far as getting their thoughts moving on how we can prevent burnout. I'd love to have you all share a little bit with your organizations, something that you learned. All right, and it's just that simple. We talked a little bit about burnout, and within this presentation, we have not that much time to cover a lot of information. So I'm not going to be able to do a really deep dive on this. We just kind of scratch the surface, and we're going to move right along to stress management and leadership. So we can't talk about stress management without talking about self-care. And so self-care are actions that you take to refill your battery throughout your day. Think of these actions as habits and rituals, like refilling your water bottle, having a nightly routine that calms you before bed, journaling, taking pause to just have stillness or quietness, reducing the stimulation in your life. Those are small acts of self-care. So when we think of self-care, don't think of these grandiose things that have to happen. Like, in order for me to practice self-care, I have to take a vacation to Hawaii for 2 weeks. Self-care is not about you don't have to have a lot of money to do self-care. Self-care should be free and it should be highly accessible. Self-care, when we talk about self-care, we really want to look at it from a holistic approach. So we practice self-care to take care of our overall well-being, not just ourselves when we're stressed. So stress management, that phrasing kind of sounds like, oh, when I'm stressed out, these are things I can do to almost like pump the brakes on the stress. And that's true when it comes to some of these self-care items. But really, what you want to do is practice these self-care items, especially when you're feeling good, feeling calm, get into good habits of it. And then when to bring down kind of like your overall temperature of stress. So when the stress hits, you have a lower threshold, or I'm sorry, you have a higher threshold to tolerate the stress that is coming your way. I appreciate considering that self-care offers you a fighting chance. So, the more stress we have in our lives, the more opportunity for rest, decompression, access for joy, and calm that we need. And so, considering that some folks have a lot of like kind of short-term stress, like thinking of like finals week and deadlines and midterms and all this stuff. Like those are more short-term stress. The deadline passes on that and then the stress lets up. But other people have more chronic stressors, like they experience discrimination, maybe they experience inability to access healthy foods. Maybe their home environment isn't calm, peaceful. They don't have joy within their relationships or emotional safety within their relationships. Some of those basic level things, like those human things that we need for connection and safety, if those things aren't being met, more self-care is needed. It gives us a fighting chance against those things. What I want to make sure that I'm specifying is taking a deep breath is not going to solve your, for example, financial problems, but taking a deep breath, utilizing stress management interventions or self-care can be really helpful in calming your body and calming your mind so that you have the capacity to deal with the things that are important to you or things that are just on your plate. I encourage you to consider that self-care isn't selfish, it's self-preservation. So the car isn't selfish for needing more gas in its tank, right? We never think of a car that, like, we don't judge the car for needing more fuel. So judging ourselves for needing more fuel isn't necessarily fair. We aren't selfish for needing to take care of ourselves. Audre Lorde, who is a social justice advocate, wrote about self-care being a critical part of resisting oppressive systems and values, and it's about sustainability. And so I like to also I encourage you to consider that self-care is not self-indulgence. The acts that we take should contribute to overall positive outcomes. So I like to talk about this because sometimes the concept of self-care and treating yourself are kind of intertwined. So sometimes folks are like, I'm like, hey, what do y'all do for self-care? And people say things like, oh, I get super duper high and that makes me feel better. Yeah, totally. In the moment, that would make you feel better. Just because something in the moment makes you feel better doesn't necessarily mean that it is self-care. We want to make sure that we're labeling things as self-care, things that contribute to an overall positive outcome for us. So, yeah, if you got really, really high today on whatever substance of choice, that may make you feel better or make you feel different about your problem. But once that all wears off, it often has its side effects, feeling groggy, feeling unwell. It doesn't have a positive outcome for your body or physical health. And so that's something I wanted to kind of make sure that we're talking about here, that self-care is not self-indulgence. Same thing with shopping. Sometimes people are like, when I'm upset or when I practice self-care, I just go shopping. And that is great. Like there's creativity in shopping, and that can be awesome in many ways. However, if you're shopping as your only coping mechanism, chances are you may be spending a lot of money. And on the back end, that's really stressful when you have to pay off that credit card bill. So considering that acts of self-care should be free and highly accessible, and there shouldn't be negative consequences to whatever you're considering self-care. We're going to define self-care just a little bit more. I love this self-care wheel because it provides a lot of ideas of what we can do to help ourselves in many ways. I like this wheel because it suggests balance, and all of these choices are low cost and accessible. So when talking about self-care, sometimes um, I have students, the second I bring this up, they're like, no, I don't have time. I don't have time to add more things to my plate. And I hear you on that. Notice within the professional portion of this wheel, it says learn to say no and setting boundaries. And so you can't do all of the things all of the time. A full plate is a full plate. Whether your plate is loaded up with cookies or broccoli and Brussels sprouts, whether it's loaded up with good things, healthy things, or maybe unhealthy things. It doesn't really matter. A full plate is a full plate. We only have a certain capacity for our energy during the day. And so please don't look at this wheel and think, oh, she's telling me I need to do all of this stuff. I encourage you a solid start if you don't have a current self-care plan. I encourage you to have 3 to 5 things that you feel motivated to try to use. And if you already practice self-care, a good next step would be to reflect on how it's going for you. Is it working for you in the way that you need it? Sometimes you just need to switch it up. I used to journal all the time, and then I just kind of hit a point where I'm like, I don't know, this isn't really helping me. So now I don't do that. Now I work on being creative. I try to find more creative outlets. Um, and so something may not consistently work for you for many years. Practicing self-care and having a self-care plan is an evolving process that you carry with you throughout the rest of your life. And so you may have a solid plan for a semester, and then the next semester you need to revisit. And so, like I said, sometimes it's not about adding more, but instead thinking critically about how you're spending your time and evaluating whether you are dedicating your time to things that are reflective of your values and your overall goals that you want to reach. All right, so the next slide says the next slide indicates boundaries and delegating. These are important elements to consider when you're in a leadership role. These are choices that are seen as acts of self-care. So we just talked about like personal self-care, individual self-care. Now we're going to talk about how does it evolve into leadership. And so boundaries and delegating are two big topics that I often visit when talking with student leaders about taking care of yourself. Just a brief definition, boundaries are how we navigate and negotiate our needs within our relationships. And delegating is when we take a task and divide it among the people who we lead. I think there's a typo on the screen. Pardon that. Boundaries are about respect for others and ourselves. Both of these require clear communication. My personal opinion is that if you're not delegating, you're not leading. Saying that out loud is a good reminder to challenge some of that perfectionism that can sometimes cause us to take too much onto our plates. And so when I talk about delegation, I hear oftentimes, I don't delegate because I'm particular about how I want things done. I do it myself and it gets done correctly. And so we're going to talk about that on the next slide, how important delegating is and why we want to follow through on these things. So when I'm presenting in front of a live audience, I like to divide the room into groups, two different groups. One group focuses on boundaries, another group focuses on delegating, and kind of discusses together these prompts. So if you like these prompts, you can do this as a workshop with your fellow student leaders, kind of just picking their brains and kind of talking about one or a few of these concepts because these are common things that come up when leading. So when it comes to boundaries, some ideas that come up for people, how do leaders use boundaries? Um, and so they use boundaries by communicating their capacity and what they can do versus what they cannot do. So I can help you with that project. After I'm finished with my exam, I'm free Friday morning. So it's a great use of communication and boundaries. I cannot help you with this problem at 2 a.m. because my sleep is really important. And so making sure that you're not kind of falling into the urgency of others. Some people have a problem and that problem is really big for them and it's urgent for them, but taking some time to reflect and assess, is this big for me and is this urgent for me? Pros and cons, is it worth me setting aside my sleep to help this person address this issue? It doesn't mean that you don't help. It means that you don't just have it means that instead of being kind of like a bottomless pit, an open door of offering your help, you're saying, I can help, but this is when and how I can help. And so what gets in the way of us upholding our boundaries? Maybe this is habits that we have, not self-reflecting. Maybe this is about, for some people, oftentimes when you're in a student organization, like the people that you're leading are your friends. So you're emotionally invested in them being well and being okay. And so that can be really hard to uphold our boundaries. But really, it's important that when we say something, hey, I can't help you at 2 in the morning, we really follow through on that because that is that's how we teach people how to treat us, is what we allow for our boundaries, whether they're flexible or rigid. Um, and so, what tips do you have for someone who's struggling with their boundaries? I encourage folks to practice self-reflection. I also encourage folks to not have rigidity within every single situation. So, we don't want to be really loose with our boundaries, and we also don't want to be really rigid with our boundaries. We want our boundaries to be like well, it depends. And then we think really critically about that. For some people, you might have looser boundaries because there's more trust in that relationship. The relationship feels healthier. There's more give and take. So for somebody who really takes care of me and I take care of them and it's reciprocal, I'll maybe have looser boundaries with them. But if there's somebody in my life who is kind of constantly needing and asking and requesting things of me and it's not necessarily reciprocated back, I might have a little bit more rigid boundaries. And it depends on your capacity too. During finals week, you're going to have a little bit more rigid boundaries because you got to take care of you. But then during summertime, those boundaries might loosen up. So think of boundaries as a fluid thing that you're thinking really critically about. And it's for you to follow through on and for you to decide based off of your capacity, your goals, your values. And I love a good pros and cons list. As far as delegating goes, perfectionism absolutely can get in the way of us delegating. Sometimes we want to do it ourselves because it's got to get done correctly. And so I encourage you to think critically about this. At what cost? So if you are doing everything yourself, once again, my personal opinion is that that's not really leading. And so thinking about this thing that needs to get done correctly, can you teach someone else to do this task? Because if you can take the time to teach someone else to do the task, then you have support behind you. Then the next time that thing rolls around, you can ask them to do it. They're already trained and you trust them. So what can you communicate in advance to people? Um, Considering the cost of what if this thing doesn't get done correctly. So, what if you do send somebody on an errand and they buy the wrong product that you sent them to go get? Is that how big of a deal is it? Is it going to ruin the event or ruin whatever you're trying to do? So, there's certain things that this concept, this idea might make sense for. But if it doesn't make sense, if there's no cost, if it's not going to be catastrophic, if there's an error that comes up, then it's really a good time right now in college to beat the habit of perfectionism and kind of diving into more flexibility. It's okay that things aren't perfect. It's okay that things don't get done according to the exact plan that you set out. And so learning to be a little bit more flexible can be really helpful and just having more joy in accomplishing tasks as well. Dr. Stacy Latom describes the concept of self-care as a more westernized or colonized ideal. So I like to include this slide and have you all consider the concept of collective care. So we talk so much about self-care, but many folks come from collectivistic cultures where self-care goes against the grain of the values of how they grew up and how they engage in relationships. And so, and even if you maybe grew up in a more individualistic culture, this is still a helpful concept as well. So, collective care refers to the mutual support of one another to create an environment that uplifts the well-being of the group, not just the individual. So, I love this concept integrated into leadership because by practicing community or collective care, we can get the connection, community, and support that we require as human beings. And so instead of having, maybe rigid boundaries of you taking care of yourself, and that has to be kind of a solo journey. Um, to reduce burnout, you can bring your friends along in the journey with you. So you can talk about how you can contribute um, to the group dynamic in a positive way and integrate culture that is considerate of the well-being and the wellness of everyone in the group so that the whole group has an opportunity to thrive. So I like to pose this prompt to my audience. How do we incorporate our friends and family into our wellness journey? And this can be just as simple as like, let's make sure that before we get down to business and we're, in our meetings talking about, all the things that we have to get done, can we start it out by just being warm and friendly and focusing on the connection and the human beings? It's okay for people to say, I'm not having a good week. And then the group says, I'm so sorry. How can we support you in this? Before we move on to these important things. So really focusing on connection before focusing on accomplishing tasks is a great idea that has come up. Sometimes it's about if you have a self-care plan, encouraging your friends to also have a self-care plan. That is a part of community care, and even better, bringing them along with you on the journey. So, hey, I'm going to go to a wellness workshop. My sleep's really messed up. I'm going to go learn about sleep. Do you want to go with me? Maybe we can learn something together. Or do you want to go to the gym together? Hey, like, we tend to, maybe with your roommates, we tend to stay up really late at night. What do and your friend's like, yeah, me too. I'm so exhausted. What if we just tried to go to bed tonight, like as a household, just like 20 minutes earlier than what we have been doing. So trying to kind of encourage positive, healthy practices within your place of living, within your organization as a whole. Another idea is if your organization has late night events or events that are really early in the morning, considering how that might be impacting your members' sleep, ability to access sleep. So, really considering how you can make events end earlier or start later so that folks can get their full 8 hours of sleep. It's really important for our well-being to get that much sleep. And so considering too, what are ways that your organization helps its members to feel cared for? And so these are kind of like threads that you can blend through whatever you all do together. And so I encourage you to reflect on this and see how these can be integrated into your practices. All right, and here we are. We are going to be talking about CAP services. In front of you on the screen, we have something that's called the STEP model of care. And so here at CAPS, we have this model that helps us to organize our vast menu of services that we have. We have something for everybody here. And so working from the bottom up, our blue and green zones are going to be a lot of services that actually do not require an appointment or a phone call in advance, which students really appreciate. So towards the bottom, we have our online platforms like you at Fullerton. If you're looking for relaxation exercises or articles about how you can improve your boundaries, your communication, really anything that has to do with the student lifestyle, managing stress, what is a healthy relationship. You at Fullerton, so it's u.fullerton.edu, is a wellness platform that you can log into. You just log in with your student credentials and like your student portal credentials, and you can log in and explore that. It is a confidential exploration as well. So if you need to look up resources about sexual health or crisis intervention, no one can see that on your search history if you're on the u.fullerton.edu platform. My favorite thing about u.fullerton.edu is that all the articles and videos are vetted by psychologists and people within academia from around the nation. I love that because I can send students here confidently instead of sending students to YouTube or Google or TikTok or whatever that may be. And, they get like misinformed. They go down a weird rabbit hole and, I don't know what information they're accessing. So u.fullerton.edu, I trust it and I can endorse it. Compass.fullerton.edu has really great resources for urgent matters like needing to find housing, maybe needing to find food resources. Like I mentioned before, some people really have kind of some of their basic needs aren't being met. And so that serves as a stressor. And so if that's you, I encourage you to check out compass.fullerton.edu. We also have our CAPS website and our social media. The best way to get to know what we do is to follow us on Instagram. I encourage you to scan the QR code, follow us on Instagram at CSUFCAPS. We also have a website available during the semester once we're in full swing. We have an events page, so you can just pull up our website and see what we're offering for the day. So if you're like, oh, I want to try, like I'm starting to feel the stress, I want to see what CAPS has to offer without having to call to make an appointment, you can just go to our events page and see what's happening on a day-to-day basis. The things that are going to be on that calendar are the things that are offered in that green section of our STEP model of care. So we have drop-in groups. We have art wellness workshops. So if you just want to come, you don't necessarily want to talk, but you just want to be with other people trying out art. You don't have to have any sort of talent at all. Those are really great workshops. We have a wellness room over here in at PAPS, and I'll tell you where we're located over in Titan Hall. Our wellness room actually has massage chairs and nap pods. bring a friend, come on over and sit in our massage chairs. We also offer yoga in our space as well. We have doggy therapy events. Those are very, very popular. And we also have a team of peer educators, so student employees that are trained on mental health topics. So you'll see them out and about around campus. Feel free to chat with them about many topics, learn more about our services, working our way up the step model of care. If you feel like you need some more individual help, for some of you, when I was mentioning feeling really burnt out, I encourage you to call our phone number. It's 657-278-3040 and call to schedule an appointment for wellness coaching. So if you are burnt out or you've been burnt out for a long time, call our and schedule with our wellness coach. She is a certified wellness instructor, and she's able to work through a self-care plan and really help create a tailored approach for you. For some of you who were saying or who were considering that you're struggling with kind of managing stress as far as your eating and sleeping habits go, you can also call to schedule an appointment with Amy, who's our wellness coach. You can also come into our wellness workshops. Those are run by our peer educators and they're advertised on our social media and our website. Those do not require a phone call. You can just drop in and show up and learn something about sleep, positive sleep habits, stress reduction. Maybe you're somebody who has negative thoughts or you're self-critical. That would be great for you to attend a thought wellness workshop. Additionally, if you just kind of feel like your mood is low, you feel like your emotions are running the show, stop by one of our emotional wellness workshops or our mood wellness workshops. We, of course, offer short-term therapy. Short-term therapy is brief, so most students access a handful of sessions per semester. However, that's determined on a case-by-case basis. And so if you're interested in that, you can call our phone number. We offer crisis services 24 hours a day through our phone number as well. Let me give you that phone number here. I encourage you to put this phone number in your phone because it is our 24-hour crisis line. I hope you never need it. But if you do, now you have it. And then or maybe you have a friend, you're talking with them on the phone and they're really struggling with something, you may want to offer them this phone number so that they can call crisis. And like I said, you can scan the QR code for our CAPS event page. We are located Titan Hall, which is on the corner of State College Boulevard and Dorothy Lane, so back behind the TSU. You do have to cross the street. Our address is actually, you can Google it and Google will navigate you accordingly. Our address is 1111 North State College Boulevard. Our hours of operation are Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. That's for if you want to walk over and see us for crisis. You can also walk over to us on the third floor is our wellness room. And you can call that phone number 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. to schedule one-on-one appointments. I really appreciate you. Thank you so much for your time. And so if you would scan the QR code, give me some feedback on how I did as a presenter. Let me know what you think about this presentation. I do actually read these comments. So if you have thoughts about things that I could do better or things that I could do differently, I'm really interested to hear about topics specifically. If you want me to spend more time on it or less time on it, that would be really great to receive that feedback. Thank you so much, and I hope you all have a great rest of your day.